Hi, welcome back, Cloud Scholars. I'm your host, Kieran Tross. In today's video, I'll go over how to create a virtual machine in Azure. First thing you need to do is log into the Azure portal. Once you are here, we're going to go to the search bar and we're going to go to virtual machine. I already have it here on mine, so I'm just going to click on it. So once you're in virtual machine, click on create. Azure virtual machine. Now, as always, the subscription, if you have more than one subscription, you need to choose which one that Azure is going to bill. And then for the resource group, I'm going to go ahead and choose RG West US. And for the virtual machine, I'll just call it Marketing VM1. Let me make that a capital M. And I'll leave it in this region. I don't really have that much options because this still is a free trial version. Availability options. Okay, so what are the availability options here? So if you click down, what we're going to go to is no infrastructure redundancy required. But what these are is an availability set. I'll start from that one. Basically, what availability set is for fault tolerance. Let's say you have multiple machines that you need to manage workloads, such as a web server. Availability sets are used to protect applications from hardware failures within the Azure data center. Each machine will be spread out on a different physical location within Azure data center to prevent disruption in the event a network switch or power supply goes out. Now, an availability zone is telling Azure we want the machines to be in separate buildings, right? Different buildings such as Azure's, or I should say Microsoft data centers. So if building A goes down, then building C is still functional within the resources. So availability zone and availability set are essentially pretty much the same thing. They just operate in a different fashion in a geographical sense. Availability set is going to stay the same within that data center within different racks. And then availability zone is going to be within different data centers throughout that specific region. And then you have virtual machine scale sets where you're just scaling up for fault tolerance, and we're not going to need that. So we're going to choose no infrastructure redundancy required. Security type, we'll leave it as standard. You see, confidential isn't there. We aren't able to choose that because it's a free trial. And trusted launch virtual machines, we're not going to go ahead with that. So for the image, we're going to go down to Windows 10, Generation 2. And for size, we can go with 2 CPUs and 8 gigs, which is perfectly fine. So I did skip something. Spot instance with Azure is basically getting a VM at a discount. Think of it as a last minute deal to a concert and the seller just wants to get the tickets off their hands. Keep in mind, if you go with this choice, if someone that is willing to pay the full amount comes along, you're getting the boot. So we're not going to choose spot instance, right? So for the username, we're just going to come up with something quickly. I'll just say, I'll call it cloud admin, and I'll put a password in there, and I'll put another password in there just to confirm. Doesn't like the password, so hopefully I remember that. And I am having a hard time putting down a password I'm going to remember. Good. All right. I got that password. I'll remember it. So we go to inbound ports, public inbound ports. We're going to choose none right for now. And then we're gonna do allowed selected ports. So this is a Windows machine, so we're gonna go with RDP. The other options there are HTTP, HTTPS if you want to make it a web server, or SSH port 22, and that's for Linux. So for us, we're just gonna keep it with RDP. And this is right here is the licensing, is if you want to do a multi-tenant. We're not gonna click that option. Now the next portion is disk. For the disk type, we have three options. We have premium SSD, standard SSD, and standard HDD. So premium is for more high production. That's gonna be a higher cost, and we're not gonna choose that one because we're just creating this just so that we can learn. Standard SSD is perfectly fine, and then the standard HDD, which is the old hard drive, and we're not gonna choose that one. So we have here on the left is delete with VM. So basically this is saying when you go to delete the VM, delete the disk associated with it. Now, I'm gonna check this off because what I wanna do is I wanna also show you how you go about finding those VMs, those resources associated with your VM, and you can go ahead and delete that. And I'm gonna show you all that within the resource group. Then there's enable encryption at host. We don't get this option because we're still in a free trial right now. And then we go down to encryption, which is encryption at rest with platform managed key, encryption at rest with customer managed key, and there's double encryption. We're going to leave it with the default encryption, which is perfectly fine. And we're going to leave this section empty. We're not going to go into anything here. You have the advanced portion, but we don't need to go into this as well. I want to really focus on just the basics at the moment, just to teach you how to really set up the virtual machine. So that's why I'm skipping some of those options. And then some options obviously aren't there because we have the free trial. So virtual network, now you need to choose which network this resource, your virtual machine, is going to be located on. So we're going to go with, and Azure is smart enough to let us know, okay, so virtual network West US, and then the subnet. We're not going to go DC because that's for domain controllers. We're going to go VM because that's for our virtual machines. And we are going to need to get to this VM, right? So we're going to need a public IP, right? That's going to be associated with the NIC card. So this is perfectly fine. So Azure created one for us, which is perfectly fine. It was just basically took the name of the same machine and just add the -IP to it. And network security groups, we'll keep it basic. We can click advanced, but we're not going to do that. We're going to leave it as basic. Public inbound ports, we're going to allow selected ports, which is going to be RDP. Now, in a production environment, you would not do it this way. In a production environment, what you would want to do is have a machine where you can set up as a bastion host, which that machine would only be able to allow access from specific IP ranges, and then you would use that machine as a jump into your internal network, or you would do something similar as a Azure virtual desktop farm, where you would be able to have a URL connect to it, and then you get into your resources. But that's for a totally different topic. But for this is for demonstration purposes. I'm going to show you exactly how to get into your VM really quickly. So here we have the option again, is delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted. We're going to keep that checked off. We'll leave enable accelerated networking, which basically is saying enables low latency and high throughput on your network interface. We don't need any load balancing because we only have one machine. For management, there's nothing really here we need to do. There's a few things I wanted to kind of go over with you, which is, logging with Azure AD. We're not going to go ahead with this because it's going to be a local machine and we don't have it tied or even added to a domain, I should say. There's an option for auto shutdown, which is great for if you want to save cost. So you can say, hey, shut down the machines every day at 4 p.m., right? Or whatever time you want to do. Site recovery is basically Azure has a disaster recovery where if something were to go down to the VM, there would be a backup, a replica of that VM. You may have it in a different area within that region. We're not checking that off for this demonstration, and then the rest we'll just leave it as it is. So on advanced, this is where you would do your extensions. Let's just say if you wanted to have um, uh, any virus scans or something similar to that, you can add a bunch of different extensions that Azure offers. We'll leave it the way it is, and then this is custom data if you want to put scripts in, so when the machine is provisioned, the script runs right away. You would have that in a production environment. You may have some scripts that you want to run for installing certain applications or putting in place certain security privileges that you need to follow for your organization. So everything else we'll leave the way it is. And then we'll go to tags. We're not going to tag this machine at the moment. Tags are really great when you want to run reports or if you have a lot of resources within a resource group. So let's just say you have, so this machine is named marketing. And within this resource group, we can have a bunch of other machines, let's say 50 other machines for finance and another 40 machines for HR and so on and so forth. If you are saying, okay, well, how much is the finance department costing us? You would have a tag here, right? And then you'd probably put in something like finance. So this way you could differentiate this specific, all those machines for finance, so you can now pull this up and then give it to the CFO and say, okay, this is how much it's costing us. So next is review and create. Let's see if the validations failed or passed. Okay, it's saying something is missing. What is missing here? So this is good. Okay, I needed to check this off. All right, now let's try review and create. And I've done virtual machines a ton of times, and look, I still made a mistake. So this is letting us know subscription credits applied and how much it's going to cost. So hopefully this goes through. One thing I want to note is in this top corner where it says notifications, when you are deploying any resource, if you click up here, you can see that it's a deployment in progress. So let's say if you click on something and you're creating a resource and you're like, hey, what's going on with it now? And you click out this screen. So let's say if I go here to Microsoft Azure, that does not stop what is going on. Deployment is still in progress, and I could click on it and I can still get back to this kind of screen right here. Or you can continue doing something else while this is running in the background. So that is very, I think that's a very good thing for you all to notice. Sometimes when people are using Azure, they think to themselves, or they click out of something while it's being created, that things just may not occur or may not get provisioned, and that is incorrect. Okay, so here we are. Our VM is now created. We have our virtual machine, which is Cloud Scholars with subscription. We have the name Marketing VM1, and then we have the resource group, which is RG West US, and you can see the status says running. And this is our public IP address, so this is exactly what we'll need to connect to. Okay, now I'm logging into this machine. Now you can see the username showing up as Cloud Admin. And as you can see, it's giving me the first setup. We'll just click on accept. I'm going to go into command prompt. I'm going to type in system info. Okay, so I just pulled up command prompt and you're able to see everything about this machine from just typing in system info. We see the host name there, which populates. And then you also see that it's a Microsoft Windows 10 Pro, which is that what we selected. So that wraps it up. Now that you know and you've learned how to create a virtual machine, I thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe here at Cloud Scholars. My goal is to get you from scholar to consultant and from consultant to expert. See you next time.